Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm Dave Lochran with Adam Scher and the man, the myth, the legend, Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, breaking down a 9-game slate today. Boys, how are we? Please be enthusiastic.
I feel like I gotta to tone it down a little bit on the first one, so then when you, of course, ask again to get us even more pumped up, then I can be more enthusiastic.
Right, of course. Of course. What about you? How you feeling, Adam?
Doing good, man. Always doing good, but no, looking forward to, I guess, it feels like the first show I've done with Alex in a while. I guess since, like, Wednesday. Right? But,
Wednesday. It's the first show any of us have done with him since Wednesday.
I didn't do a show last Tuesday. I know, but I didn't do a show last Tuesday, I think is what it is. So it feels like, I don't know. Last week was weird, so it feels like I haven't done that many shows with you guys.
Gotcha. Well, here we are, and we've got 9 games, seemingly one clear top pitching option, specifically on DraftKings. Let's go ahead and jump into this one. We'll start with you, Alex. We've got, well, by the way, what's the deal with the White Sox pitching situation?
Man, I have no idea other than I saw that Odrisamer Despain was listed as starting pitcher. Is that not accurate?
Is Despaigne?
Yeah, it's Despaigne last I saw.
Because I saw it last night, and then I saw something where it was like they're still keeping mum on it, and we don't have it confirmed. But I don't know. I believe DraftKings still has it as nobody, where they're just listing every damn pitcher in the White Sox organization. You're right. MLB now have Despaigne. So, well, I mean, yep, there you go. All right, cool. Anyway, New York Yankees, New York Mets in the Bronx, Alex. Masahiro Tanaka, Cy Vargas coming off a 9-inning complete game shutout with 8 strikeouts against the dismal Giants. Tanaka, on the other hand, coming off the paternity list, has been underwhelming this year. His K rate's way down from what it was. He really just hasn't flashed a whole lot of upside, but his price has come down pretty significantly. How do you look at this pitching matchup on both sides? Presumably, you're not super heavy on a $7,600 Jason Vargas, but we'll find out.
I mean, anytime a pitcher is going up against the Yankees, that's definitely not a great situation, especially at Yankee Stadium. So I think given that he's struck out 19% on the year and the Yankees lineup is it's not easy to get strikeouts in it. I don't really see much reason to go there, but on the other side, Tanaka much more playable in tournaments up against the Mets, who have given up a surprising number of amazing games over the past year and a half. So that always is intriguing, but the price tag is pretty reasonable, particularly on DraftKings and Yahoo. Again, the Mets aren't great for getting strikeouts, and Tanaka's strikeout rate is only 21% of the year, so nothing that's going to blow your socks off. But I think that since it's a little bit of a shorter slate, maybe you go there, even though he's not in the greatest spot, just because he fits in with your salary constraints.
What are your thoughts here, Adam? And is there any weather concerns for you?
Last I checked, I think the weather should be okay. I think Alex just tweeted it too, that everything looked okay there. I don't have interest in Vargas. I still don't buy into this recent hot stretch. I don't see any reason to. He has a 19% strikeout percentage. His pitches, as far as I can tell, look about the same. Like nothing's changed to make me think that Jason Vargas isn't still Jason Vargas. And it's not a good matchup going up against the Yankees here. Tanaka's price tag is interesting, especially on the 2 pitcher sites. He's 38 on Yahoo, 79 on DraftKings. On one hand, I don't think I really get to a whole lot from a roster construction standpoint because I am going to put such an emphasis on Chris Sale, and because there are so many cheap SP2s that are, even cheaper than Tanaka, that I can go to and pair with Sale and get whatever bats I want. But on the other hand, I think Tanaka is pretty clearly underpriced, at least for his upside. He has his strikeout rate is down this year at only 21%, but we do have a pretty long track record of him being a higher strikeout guy than that. His splitter has improved a bit over the most recent part of the season. His chase percentage is back up to the elite levels that we would expect. So some stats at least are trending in the right direction. It's not a bad matchup, and he's cheap. So I think it's most likely that I get to him with like Rocky stacks or something like that. And the overall roster instruction will keep my ownership or my exposure down. But I think that the price tag's fine.
The splitter, as you mentioned, looks better than that recently, but that whiff rate is down a lot from where it was. Less vertical movement on it as well from seasons past. So I mentioned in the deep dive today on awesemo.com, which is free today. And I know, Adam, yours was free. I think last week you had a free one out there. So keep an eye out. We're throwing up free articles each day so you can get a look if you're not a premium sub. But I'd mentioned the last sentence in his write-up is unless if he can't get that splitter working like it used to with the same amount of missed bats, we're never going to get the same results from Tanaka.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that it's something to monitor moving forward, and I think it is at least moving in the right direction. But it is a legitimate concern. Like, he used to be a guy who got more strikeouts, and his swinging strike percentage and his chase rate were both elite, like towards the top of all of baseball. And the chase percentage is getting back there. The swinging strikes still aren't. The strikeouts still aren't.
Yeah. By the way, we had somebody mention in chat that a beat writer had said that it looks like a lake in the outfield at Yankee Stadium. So if you want to post that link, that'd be great, Seth. I'm looking for it now if either of you guys have it. Oh, actually, here we go. He already do we have it? Nope. Oh, yeah, okay. But so it's Laura Albanese. So both the Yankees and Mets have a mutual day off Wednesday, but there's an event at the stadium then. So far, there does appear to be a short window, but the outfield currently looks like a small lake. Concerning?
I think there might be some recency bias here because a couple of games were postponed because of bad field conditions. I don't think that's like as common as it has been recently, and especially New York, they get plenty of rain there, so the ground should be able to absorb water pretty quickly. I'm not any sort of expert in field conditions, so I can't really say for sure, but until I hear more concerning information there, I probably won't be that worried.
You're not an expert on water tables and ground absorption? No? Okay. Wasn't sure. I know you majored in mathematics. But yeah, we'll see. Wasn't one game, like you said, it wasn't one game recently, it was postponed, not because it was still raining, but because the field was such shit, right?
Yeah, that was in LA, though, where they don't have a drainage system on the field.
I think it happened in New York, too, didn't it?
It may have. I know it happened in LA because I DM'd Adam about it and I was pissed. Yeah, it rains there and they're down in their apocalypse bunkers. So it is a little bit different. They should be able to handle it in the Northeast where we get rain all the time. We'll see, though. We'll keep an eye on it. What about hitters here, Alex?
I think that the Yankees are definitely an option with a 5.6 team total, one of the higher ones on the slate. Actually, my percentage chance they have the best sack of the night is only 8%, though. They're the fifth highest. So a lot of high projected offenses tonight. I think that the Yankees are going to be definitely in play with around the same ownership as their chance to be in the top stack. They aren't going to blow you away with value on any of the sites, but there are a couple good priced batters. So I think that they're definitely in play, but maybe not the top option on tonight's slate.
All right, Adam, before we move on to the next game, your take on the Yankees batch. You've got LeMahieu, Luke Voigt, Aaron Hicks, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres. Didi's been back in the lineup. Clint Frazier, Maben, and Gardner here against Vargas.
Yeah, I like the price tags on some of them against Vargas. You have a lot of right-handed power here, but you got a price drop on Luke Voigt down to $4,400 on DraftKings. You got Gary Sanchez at $5,100, which is down a bit from where he has been recently. So I think that you get some nice power upside from these guys. They obviously have a high implied total, like Alex said. So there's a lot of those on this slate. I crunched some lineups before the show just to try and get an idea of how stuff was breaking down, and I got them as my second highest five-man stack, but kind of just like lumped in with the Cubs and the Rockies and the Dodgers.
All right. And Alex, you're right. It was a couple weeks ago due to similar conditions in New York. So I guess we'll see. And we're seeing people saying that more rain is on the way. I guess we'll pay attention because this is a game that has clear. It's not one of those games where like, well, I didn't have any interest anyway, so I don't really care. There is a pitcher in this game in a pretty decent spot and a team of hitters that is in one of the best spots on the day. So it does actually have a pretty significant impact, and we'll keep you up to date. And then live before lock, we'll take you up till 7:05 and let you know if we get any word. All right, Adam, let's stick with you. Philly and Arizona. Did anyone want to talk about the Mets?
I didn't.
Okay.
I think they might be a little bit overowned, strangely enough. I think that Jeff Neal leading off is a great value on DraftKings and Yahoo. Particularly on DraftKings, he's the only player in the lineup that really has significant ownership. So I think actually, he's in play, but I kind of like taking him as a one-off because when you have a guy that is on a team that's not stacked, you get a little bit more differentiation from the field. But he doesn't really have great power or stolen bases, so maybe just a cash game play.
All right, fair enough. Adam, Philly and Arizona. See, I'm getting better at this Alex Adam thing. Jarrod Eichhoff, Taylor Clark. You and I discussed it on the Early Bird podcast today or last night that Taylor Clark really has not shown much at all. Jarrod Eichhoff, on the other hand, has some decent stuff, but recently it's looked rough. And if you just look at the pitches that he was throwing earlier in the year that looked good, they've looked worse recently. Some bad matchups, I get that, but Eichhoff has definitely taken a step backwards over the past month. Can he get back on track today at home against Arizona? And are you worried about weather in this one?
Not too concerned about weather here. More concerned about the weather in the Yankees game than this one. I think it's an okay spot for him. The price tag's appealing. The Diamondbacks do have 6 lefties in their lineup. I hadn't checked our lineup until right now. So that's not great for Eichhoff. We prefer him against righties. He gives up more power to lefties. He doesn't strike out lefties at the same clip. So the lineup that Arizona's running out is not great. He's still, inexpensive, but there are a lot of pitchers cheaper than him. I expect that, in my initial crunch, I got 15 to 20% on DraftKings. But once I start sorting and ranking lineups and choosing the lineups that I think are best, I expect that I'll be getting more of a cheaper grouping of SP2s than Eichhoff.
Okay. Yeah, and we're going to get into hitters pretty heavily here. There's a few that I think stand out for Arizona too. You could even look to Alex Avila in the 7-hole at a good, favorable hitter-friendly park in Philly. But any interest in pitching first, Alex, before we get to bats?
Yeah, I think Eichhoff is certainly a reasonable play. With he does 22% strikeout rate on the year. The Diamondbacks strike out a little bit less than average. But the price tag is really what's going to pull you onto Eichhoff if you go there, and the contrarian factor. So I think he has a chance of having a decent game, but the 4.9 team total for Arizona is pretty high. So definitely a contrarian play and not one that's going to give you good value.
Yeah, and I believe that Arizona total has been climbing throughout the day as well. So it doesn't exactly give you or inspire a ton of confidence. Okay, so let's go to bats here, Adam. Eichhoff, as you mentioned, been much better against righties. Lefties have given him some issues this year. He has allowed some power for sure, and this is a park where home runs are very prevalent. 8 of his 11 home runs have come at Citizens Bank Park. I don't think that's a big surprise. And Taylor Clark on the other side of this one has just been pretty brutal for the most part. Not a ton of power allowed, but a ton of base runners and not a lot of strikeouts. I think both sides here have a decent amount of value.
Yeah, so do I. Eichhoff against lefties since 2017, which he missed most of or all of last year. Since 2017, he's allowed a 234 ISO to lefties. You have a reasonably priced David Peralta batting third. Kettle Marte has some power. We prefer him from the right side, but he has some power. They're the two that I think are most interesting. Eduardo Escobar is really expensive, but so Peralta is my favorite guy from Arizona. And then on the other side, you prefer lefties against Taylor Clark, but he's really not good in general. To lefties so far, he's allowed a 229 WOBA, 229 ISO, 139 to righties, but his expected ISO to righties is 193. What really stands out is he has struck out just 12% of lefties. Bryce Harper is just like egregiously underpriced. I think he was 15 on Yahoo. He's 4,400 on DraftKings. Good park for home runs. You have a guy that doesn't miss bats and gives up power. So I like the Phillies overall, but Harper individually, I really like is one of my favorite plays on the slate.
Yeah, I agree. And Jay Bruce on DraftKings and Yahoo is super expensive. On FanDuel, he's pretty reasonably priced. He's still below 4,000. Alex, what are we doing with bats in this one, both sides?
When I ran my initial crunch on DraftKings, Philly was my number one highest owned stack, which is pretty concerning because I don't think that they're going to be I don't think they're the most likely to have the best day. And I think that maybe our ownership's going to creep up on them from where it is now. But it's a really good value at the top of the order. Jay Bruce being the lone exception, having a price tag more than 1,000 higher than anyone else on the team, which is kind of crazy. Like, I don't understand these prices at all, given they're facing a pitcher with a 5.2 xFIP. It should be way higher. So I think they're great value. I'd be concerned about ownership, and then on the other side is the opposite problem where the value is not really there. So I kind of like taking a couple shots on Diamondbacks as a contrarian stack. On Yahoo, the one guy that is in play as a one-off is Jarrod Dyson. He has a salary of 9, and he's leading off, and he gets a lot of stolen bases. So I think that I see some potential with him.
I mean, it's not like there was another pitcher scheduled, right? Last night we knew it was Taylor Clark. I don't know. The pricing is really strange on these Philly bats. And again, like Harper hasn't been great lately, Hoskins or Harper haven't been great lately. Neither is Gene Segura, but usually in these type of matchups, you're seeing DraftKings price them up very high. So I don't know. It can definitely be exploited, but like you said, do you think right now we have ownership on Philly projected as the 5th highest team on DraftKings? On FanDuel, Philly is 4th highest, and on Yahoo ownership, we have them at the 2nd highest. You're saying you think that'll creep up on DraftKings too, Alex? Sorry.
That's just my best guess because I tend to find that most projection systems are pretty sharp these days, so the ranking of teams is usually pretty similar. I haven't really investigated today, like if everyone else is really projecting the Phillies to be great value, but I definitely am. So that would make me concerned that they're going to just be that stack that everyone has at least a few shares of, and that's going to make their ownership pretty high.
All right. Anything else on this one, Adam?
No, I think that's it for me.
All right, we'll go back to you real quick, Alex, with Boston and Texas. Chris Sale is 10-9 on DraftKings. He's somehow still below 11K. It really doesn't make any sense. I think he's playable everywhere. And earlier, I think we got recent ownership projection update because earlier, the ownership projections on Sale, to me at least, were insanely low. Like even 36% on DraftKings seemed very, very low for how good he's up to 44%. I know Adam said he should be 80 to 100% at that price last night, and I don't disagree. Up to 31% on FanDuel. Okay, here we go, and 63 on Yahoo. That's more like it. But this is a guy who is essentially doing everything to be a 13K pitcher, yet he's still not there. He's not even at 11K yet. The beginning of the season was bad, but you look at his last 7 starts, a 2.2 xFIP, 43% K rate, 38% K minus BB rate, and a 65% contact rate. He's been unhittable. He's been unstoppable, and the strikeouts are flowing in. So I just don't see how you can get away from him.
Yeah, I think that he's clearly the best play on DraftKings for sure. Just egregiously underpriced, given that Texas is not a strong team. Given as evidenced by their team total of less than 3.5. And they're not great for getting strikeouts, but they're just a little bit short of average. So I think the matchup is really good, and this is one of the top pitchers in the game. So I definitely think I'm gonna go out of my way to have him on DraftKings. On FanDuel, on the other hand, I'm having trouble updating on my ownership. So on FanDuel, he's also the highest owned pitcher projected, and on Yahoo, I presume. So yeah, on Yahoo, 63% projected ownership. So I think this is one of those situations where I think everyone knows he's going to be the best, and it's going to be hard to get an edge one way or the other because everyone's going to have him, so you can't get an edge by having him, and then he's too good to really get an edge by fading. So,
Adam, Texas, and Alex mentioned it, 23.7% strikeouts versus lefties. It's right in the middle of the league. But it's also a team that ranks 28th in WRC plus against lefties. So this isn't a very good baseball team facing southpaws.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been bad. If you go to the start of last season and look at Texas's active roster, they have a 75 WRC plus against lefties. They have the 10th highest strikeout percentage against lefties. And you mentioned that Sale's numbers over his recent starts have been really good. Obviously the track record for him is amazing. Like we know he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But if you take his first 4 starts of the season out, which those were the starts where he was just getting no swings and misses on his fastball, if you take those starts out, the strikeout percentage just goes through the roof. Like all of his stats over that time period, all the metrics I look at, he's basically number 1 in baseball in like everything over that time period. He's allowed a 239 WOBA. He struck out 41.6%, 35.5 K minus BB percentage, 2.45 xFIP. He's just back to being an absolutely dominant pitcher. And on the 2 pitcher sites, well, especially on DraftKings, obviously he's like a free square. Like Alex said, it's not like you're getting a huge edge by rostering him because it's really obvious. But at the same time, I don't want to get cute and get away from him because people just refuse to play. Like people just don't play popular players. Like if you look at Jacob deGrom when he was clearly underpriced the other day, he was still only like 40% owned. If Sale comes in at like 40, 50% or something, especially in the lower dollar stuff, you're just better off having more of that or more than that. So just a clear number 1 play on DraftKings. Yahoo, there's a little bit bigger gap between him and Ryu, so at least you could, kind of consider that, but I still would give the edge to Sale. And then on FanDuel, that's the one site where I think he's priced like significantly more than everyone else, and there's still some really cheap pitching options. So he's my number 1 there, but I think I'll end up with less exposure to him on FanDuel than on DraftKings.
Honestly, it's so hard for me to make the argument for Hyunjin Ryu when he's facing a team that is, first of all, this is not a terrible Angels team, but they really don't strike out. I mean, if you think the Angels or if you think the Rangers don't strike out, you haven't looked at the Angels.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a pretty big deal. What are your thoughts on hitters and Mike Minor? Feel free to tie that into one. I don't assume you'll have a ton of Minor. Boston has not looked good lately at the plate, and JD Martinez is back today. But these are some cheap Boston bats, when you're comparing them to their talent level, particularly guys like Mookie. Do you have any interest in them against Minor here at Fenway?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of respect for Minor. He's been really, really good. He struck out almost 26% of righties this year. He's held them to a 124 ISO. He's been really good, but the price points are just too good for me to ignore. 4,500 Mookie should really never happen. 4,700 JD should also really never happen. Bogarts is reasonably priced. And then at the bottom of the order, you just get some really cheap guys with Sam Travis hitting 6th at 2,700 on DraftKings. Nunez behind him at 3,100. It just makes it a team that you can stack for cheap, and they just have so much talent that I don't mind being there. But as far as one-offs go, Mookie and JD really stand out.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I like Minor. He's a good pitcher. We've been saying it for a while now, but that doesn't mean that you can't target underpriced bats who are super talented and 2 of the best hitters in the league. What about you, Alex?
I think one super contrarian play you could make. Oh, shut up.
Maybe you're not. Maybe you're gone. Alex, going once, going twice. We lose him?
I guess.
I didn't think we did.
Oh shit!
Let me check the stream here.
I think
usually I look at the appear in.
Can you guys hear me?
Huh.
Hello?
All right.
Are we still live though?
Oh shit!
I'm waiting. We should be. He's producing today.
Yeah, I know.
I'm waiting for him just to. Well,
oh, shit.
We'll keep talking for.
He's back.
He's back.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did the stream drop?
No, that's fine.
Oh, all right. Hey, what do you think of the Boston bats, Alex?
Hold on one sec. Sorry, this editing is gonna look really bad on the stream, but bear with us. Oops. Yeah, somehow my mic got unplugged, so that was a problem.
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking at an empty chair here, and then we went white for a minute.
So I think that Boston is definitely in play. I think the value is pretty high. Minor is a good pitcher, so I'm a little bit concerned that they're going to be over-owned because they only have a 4.8 team total, which is now one of the higher ones on the slate, and the value is there on DraftKings. On Yahoo, I think if you want to hedge against your sale ownership, I would do it on Yahoo with a Texas stack. They just have way lower prices relative to the other sites. So if you really want to live hedge life, that would be your chance to do it.
Someone in chat, Thomas Tyner, says 3 Stooges. Nice. Thanks, Thomas. Much appreciated. I think we got it back. We're good now. I was watching you talk and fix the screen at once, Alex. Producing can be a pain in the ass. That's why Josh, it's easier when he does it because he just takes care of everything. You don't have to worry about it. You remember how frustrated I got at him when we first
yeah.
The stream dropped out? Oh, man. I'm not tech savvy. I don't pretend to be. All right, any other thoughts from this game?
That's it for me.
Yeah. I think this is the game for Sale's like the only real play, and then Boston bats.
Yeah, right. Looking at my initial crunch, I didn't get a lot of Boston stacks, but I did get a lot of Mookie and JD.
Right, and I think that makes the most sense. Minor's just been. It's not just that he's been good. I mean, he's done a really good job each and every week of preventing home runs, from allowing a lot of base runners, and he just doesn't even make for a great. Yeah, let me ask you this then, Adam, because I think it's a decent question. There are some good pitchers out there that you can make good arguments for stacking again, right? Sometimes they just implode. Carlos Carrasco would be a good example. You could go down a laundry list of pitchers. You know what I'm talking about. Mike Minor hasn't really even exhibited that this year.
Yeah, amongst the good pitchers, the ones that I like to take some shots against are ones that have high barrel per batted ball event percentages.
Like Carrasco.
Yeah, like Carrasco, like Shane Bieber. Mike Minor's at 6.5%. That's good. So he's striking guys out, and when they hit the ball, he's still not giving up a ton of quality contact. And so it just makes it so hard to have big games against him because he's a good pitcher who doesn't put a lot of extra guys on base, and he also doesn't make that many mistakes that get blasted.
That Bieber start the other day was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen, by the way.
It pissed me off so much because I had a lot of him, and so it started out like great.
He struck out the side in the first.
Yeah.
Ground out for Sanchez, strikes out. I forget who else it was. So 5 up, 5 down, and then he allowed 9 straight guys to get on base.
Yeah, I was already like kind of messaging people like, oh man, I'm in a really good spot with Bieber, and then I like opened the DraftKings app back up, and it's like, what the hell just happened?
Did he end up finishing in the negative?
Yeah, he had -2 on DraftKings. He had 2 on FanDuel.
Oh God.
I had
And
a
he had-
FanDuel lineup with 200 points with him. It was fun.
And he had 4 strikeouts in his first 5 batters.
Yeah. He was in double digits after 5 batters, and he finished negative.
That's crazy, man. He didn't get another out.
Yeah, it was.
All right. Well, moving on. Alex, Charlie Morton, and not Brett, but Tanner Anderson, right-hander, going for Oakland today. Charlie Morton's been really good this season. He's one of the few qualified starters with a 30+% strikeout rate. But and I know his price is down from what it was last time out. But are you able to get to a Charlie Morton when you have Chris Sale on this slate? I guess we can talk about it site specifically, but what do you do with a guy like Morton here?
I think that he is the inferior play to Sale. Like, you don't get that much salary relief, and I suppose the matchup is pretty decent. Oakland strikes out about average. They only have a team total of 3.8, so those are positive factors. But Sale strikes out 35% of the season, which is actually pretty low, or probably lower than I project him to because of that weird start. So Morton only strikes out 30%. So the net result is that you're just expecting a couple fewer strikeouts from Morton and more production from Oakland. So that's a pretty hard trade-off to make when you're only saving 1,000.
Adam?
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. Like in my initial crunch, I got to some Morton, but I think that's just because I capped my exposures my exposures capped on Sale lower than I think I'll actually end up at. And once I narrow my lineups down, I think a lot of my Charlie Morton lineups will disappear because I'll prefer Chris Sale because he's just not that much more expensive. He's the superior strikeout guy. He's got the better matchup. Morton's really good. I'm not really interested in A's bats against him outside of the fact that they are really, really cheap. But I'm not really interested in A's bats against him. It's just that it's not a slate where I feel like I'm getting an advantage by going Sale plus Morton. And I would rather have Sale than Morton.
All right. So would I, and it's not really close. It's just as good as Morton is, Sale is that much better. And I would be able to make an argument for it if this was Morton against like Miami or against Detroit, maybe a real high ups or a high K team. But Oakland's gonna, and I know look. It doesn't Morton have better strikeout numbers against lefties too?
Yeah, his numbers against righties this year are better than last year, but they're still better against lefties than righties.
Right, and you're going to get a lot of righties in this lineup. Batters in this one, Tampa Bay against Oakland, a pretty high total here, Adam.
Yeah, I have some interest in both sides of that. Tampa Bay, I think, is in a good spot. Tanner Anderson's minor league numbers really are not good. He walks guys. He doesn't strike guys out. In 11 appearances with AAA this season, he struck out 14.2%. He walked about 10%. But one thing that stands out with him is that he has extremely, extremely high ground ball percentages. And this is a park that favors pitchers as well. So it could be a game where Tampa's not striking out, but it's just a frustrating game of them, hitting balls at people. But I still think it's a pretty high upside spot. On the other side, though, on DraftKings in particular at 4K, I think that Anderson has some appeal just because he lets you stack the Rockies, get Chris Sale, and you hope that he gets like 8 points or something.
Is it easier just to go to a Musgrove when there's so many cheaper pitchers, or is the extra 1,000 help you?
For specifically like Rockies stacks, you basically need the extra 1,000.
All right, makes sense. Alex, what are your thoughts on this Tampa team against Tanner Anderson?
I think that tonight there's just so much good batting that they're not really jumping off the page, but they are fair priced on DraftKings and FanDuel and Yahoo. Maybe a little bit harder to get to some of them. I agree with Adam that Tanner Anderson is playable. I've been projected for 6.5 points for 4K, which is not. I mean, that's only like 1.5 points below value. And there's so much variance in pitching that he could end up anywhere between -10 and like 20, like if he got lucky enough. So I think there is potential there. Just like if he gets lucky and doesn't give up many hits, and then I think let's see. Looks like the ownership on the Rays is pretty fair too, 5% and 6%. So I think that they are playable, but not necessarily the the stack you're going to land on as your top stack.
All right. Any thoughts on this game outside of Tampa Bay hitters? I'm assuming we're not super high on Oakland.
Chris Davis on DraftKings, 3,100 is pretty low, and he's going to garner some ownership. Even though the matchup is not good, that really builds in all the downside into their price. So I think you can go there.
All right, yeah, Piscotty 31. DraftKings has priced Oakland really, really cheap, even in good matchups. So it makes sense that they would be through the floor in a bad matchup like this. This game's an interesting one here, boys. St. Louis and Miami. We'll stay with you, Alex. You have Michael Wacha on the mound and Sandy Alcantara. Wacha is going to garner decent ownership on some of these sites. Now, not all of them, but let's see what the update it is. He is down a lot from what I thought. Wow. 13% on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he was actually up there earlier today. Yes, even on a one-pitcher site, he's at 7%. And on Yahoo, where he is $32, he's 15%. But what are your thoughts on that, Alex? It's not a very good pitcher. He's been way worse against righties this year, and even for his career, he's going to face a lot of them. It is the Miami Marlins, who on the early I wouldn't have fault anyone for targeting Miami bats, but at the same time, I would have thought the field would be heavier on a $6,000 Wacha at Marlins Park against the Marlins.
Yeah, I think that he's in a good spot on all the sites as far as price, where when you have an average pitcher with a great matchup at a low price, that's always appealing. And tonight, I think that the only reason his ownership may be lower than you expect is that there are just so many good options as far as good value plays. So there's going to be a lot that are pretty moderately owned, like you mentioned, Musgrove being super cheap. So
Gossman too.
Yeah. So I think that I think he's totally fine to play, and the fact that his ownership's pretty low is pretty appealing.
Yeah. Adam, I know you're a little surprised. We haven't spoken, but we did the show last night. I know you're surprised that he's only projected at 13%.
Yeah, and that's about where I got him coming in on my initial crunch. Like, I think that's okay. The Marlins aren't a good team. Wacha sucks. I haven't been a Wacha guy for a while, and he's just getting worse. He's not good, but it's $6K. He's in Miami. If I get a little bit at that price point, it's fine. I would prefer every other pitcher around him over him. So I don't think that I'll get a ton, but it's a 6K pitcher. Like, it's hard to go wrong there.
And from an upside standpoint, like Gossman has, I still think even against Pittsburgh, Kevin Gossman has a higher ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gossman's a better pitcher. Darvish is a higher upside pitcher. Musgrove's a better pitcher. Low strikeout percentage for Musgrove, but he's also cheaper. Anderson is 2K less, so that, he's not any good either, but at least he's 2K less. Right.
What are you guys thinking on whichever one of you wants to take this? Go for it. Miami bats, they're always cheap. Do you think we're going to see a lot of like Sale and Morton with Miami hitters? Because right now Morton on DraftKings is projected at 24%. Also surprised me on Yahoo at 36%. So 63% Sale, 36% Morton, the two highest owned pitchers there. And then 1 and 3 respectively on DraftKings, and Morton 12% on FanDuel. Anyone wants to jump in, go for it.
I think
go ahead.
I think Austin Dean is leading off he's priced way too low, so he's a great salary saver and he's going to get a lot of ownership. But the rest of the team really isn't priced that great. I know they've been on kind of a tear recently, so I think they're not really on my radar for the Morton Sale lineups. But on the other side, St. Louis seems to be heavily underpriced on all the sites, particularly Matt Carpenter and Jose Martinez at the number 1 and 2 spots. Jose Martinez only 3,200 on DraftKings, 24 on FanDuel, and 7 the minimum on Yahoo for a team. not facing a terribly great pitcher. The weather conditions in Miami, being indoors, aren't that great, but the price tags are just way too low.
Adam, what about Miami here for you, or St. Louis bats, or Alcantara?
Yeah, I think Miami is most appealing on FanDuel because there's so much just bad pricing on DraftKings that you don't really need Miami. And it just, if you are stacking them, it kind of puts you in a situation where, because the salary relief doesn't really get you that much, you actually need them to be like one of the highest scoring offenses on the slate. Whereas on FanDuel, Sale is more expensive. So using Miami as like a second stack or a mini stack can help you get some decent bats with Sale. So I think they're more appealing there. I agree. Austin Dean leading off is really cheap. Castro's cheap as well, and again, Waka's not very good, so it's not the worst spot. As far as St. Louis goes, I think it's an okay spot. The park's not great. I think Alcantara's pretty good. He's not someone I usually like to target against, but like Alex said, the Cardinals are really cheap considering the amount of power and talent they have in their lineup. Carpenter, Goldschmidt, both 4K on DraftKings. It's a cheap price tag on them. The Young at 4,300, pretty cheap. Like the only guy that's priced up is Marcelo Ozuna, who has been really, really good, and it makes sense. But they just have a lot of good hitters, so they're grading out as like a middle of the road stack for me in terms of my ownership.
Okay, I think we're pretty much covered this game. I'm not sure we need to go any further than this. We still got a bunch of games to cover here. I guess we don't really need to go deep into a guy like Alcantara, right? He's not a high K guy. There's so many cheap pitchers around him that it would be tough to make sense of that.
Yeah, he's not someone that I'm really on.
No, me neither. Atlanta and Pittsburgh. Alex, Kevin Gossman, Joe Musgrove, two guys that are getting ownership today, and one of them much more than the other. Actually, I believe Musgrove is below 20% on DraftKings. And on your other two pitcher site, Yahoo, I think he's a little overpriced. No, actually, Gossman's 31 at 23%, and Musgrove isn't getting owned at all because he's way too expensive. And I won't even get into the FanDuel price point. It's ridiculous. It's about as ridiculous as Sale's price tag on DraftKings. So it doesn't, you're not going to see any of that, as you shouldn't. But what are your thoughts on this pitching matchup? I think you can make a good argument for both of these guys. And while Gossman has not been great from a run prevention standpoint, actually, he hasn't been good at all from a run prevention standpoint. He's striking lefties out at almost 27% this year. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4. And wow. What do we have? 6 lefties in the lineup yesterday. We got 4 in the lineup today.
I think I'm very surprised that the ownership for pitching is so high in this game because we do have this 10 over-under. The team totals for both teams are 5 or higher. So it is kind of peculiar. I prefer going to Waka, who is facing a team with a team total of a whole run less and puts up similar strikeout numbers to Musgrove and Gossman. But I think these guys are playable, especially on DraftKings Musgrove, just purely because he's the cheapest pitcher that has good value. And I'm not really seeing this as a great matchup for either pitcher. Both teams strike out just about the league average. Team totals are high. The strikeout numbers to begin with are only average for each pitcher. So not really as appealing as the field, I think. So what do you guys think?
Adam, what do you make of the fact that Gossman has the 3rd highest swinging strike rate on this slate and has always been able to miss bats, has a very good splitter, but really has struggled at preventing runs, and base runners has been the biggest thing. He's got his BABIP's of 360 against lefties. It's been a problem.
Yeah, I think that he's been getting a bit unlucky this season. He has a 6.15 ERA. His xFIP and his Sierra are both in like the 4.5 range, but his PCRA, which takes into account the actual quality of contact against him as opposed to just a league average, is at 4.08. So it's over 2 runs lower than his ERA. He's only allowed 5.5% of batted balls to be barreled this year, which is a really good percentage. The strikeout percentage is at 22%, which is decent. Against lefties, it's up about 26%. The walk percentage is a little bit high at 8.6%, but it's not the end of the world either. I just think he's a better pitcher than his price tag. I like him more than Waka. I like him more than Musgrove. He's my favorite out of these cheap guys. The Pirates don't give you a ton of strikeouts, but at this price tag, you don't need an 8 strikeout game or anything like that. It's a good park for pitching, and I just think Gausman's a better pitcher than 6,400. On the other side, it's a tougher matchup for Musgrove as far as, Atlanta doesn't strike out a lot either, and they have some really good bats in their lineup. Musgrove only an 18.8% strikeout percentage this season, but he doesn't give up a lot of barreled balls either, 5.4%. And his PCRA is slightly lower than his 4.4 ERA at 4.16. I think he's pretty comparable in talent level to Gausman. So at 5,200, I don't mind going there.
What do you think of someone at a bad position like Brian McCann? He obviously doesn't have the same power stroke as he once did, but we know Musgrove's problems have been not exclusively, but primarily against lefties. Who stands out for you as hitters here, if anyone?
Not a lot because of their price tags. McCann, I think, is fine, but I didn't get a lot of him in my initial crunches either. Freddy Freeman's just really, really expensive, and first base, as usual, is a pretty deep position. Acuna's expensive relative to other outfield options. It's not that I think he's overpriced, but when you look at the tags on Harper and Betts and Chris Davis and guys like that, it's pretty tough to get there. So I'm not getting to a whole lot of Atlanta here. It kind of is scary, but there's just a lot of teams I like more.
All right, Alex, do you like any bats from this game?
I like this game as a contrarian stack for both sides because Musgrove and Gausman are going to have ownership. Gausman on all 3 sites and Musgrove on DraftKings specifically. And when you can get a team with a 5+ total against a pitcher who's pretty popular, that gives you nice leverage over the field. I don't think that the value is going to blow you away, but that ownership is pretty low compared to their chances of being the best stack. So I think we might end up with a lot of these stacks, even though they're not great value.
Anybody that stands out specifically on both sides?
I think Jung Ho Gang, he's just priced way too low on DraftKings and FanDuel, batting 7th. So I think he's pretty nice as part of a stack or as a one-off. And then for Atlanta, we got Acuna, Donaldson, and Marquez all with nice price tags. And on Yahoo, Ozzie Albies in the 8th spot is only $9, and Nick Marquez is only $8. So that's going to save you a lot of salary to get some good pitching.
All right, 3 games to go here. I'd like to let you know, though, that Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive, has the $50K guaranteed PGA contest for the U.S. Open. $10K to first, $25 entry, only 10K max. 10 max entries. And the $6K guaranteed $3 entry, which is almost filled already, 1.9 out of 2K, because there's no management fee whatsoever, which is obviously a popular contest, has been for all sports over at Yahoo. No management fee. There's about 100 spots left on that. Jump in, and if you haven't done so, sign up with the code AWESOMO, and you can find the link on awesomeo.com. But yeah, use the promo code AWESOMO to get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, which you can then use on the site as currency, as good as cash, and play in this U.S. Open contest or any of the MLB contests they've got going, like tonight's $10K guaranteed, $2K to first, $10 entry, or the $5 $3K guaranteed. Plenty of contests to check out, whether you're playing $100 a night or only $5. Yahoo Sports is the way to go. Sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, boys, let's go. 3 more. White Sox and Washington Nationals. Drismer Despaigne and Anibal Sanchez, who's actually been pretty decent at him over his last couple of starts. Lefties have given him some problems. He's hemorrhaged power. Righties, quite the contrary. But this is a White Sox team that is very hit or miss. It's a bipolar team in terms of production, because when they start hitting, they do have plenty of power. They just have as many strikeouts.
Yeah, they have power. Sanchez has been good against righties, like you said, and that's been the case for a while now. So I don't like the way the White Sox lineup is laid out, which is really frustrating because the price tags are appealing. I think Moncada is a little underpriced. I think Yonder Alonso is underpriced. Eloy Jimenez, even though he's a righty, he has a ton of power and he's still too cheap. But it's really frustrating having like James McCann hitting in the middle of the order. Jose Abreu is righty and he's obviously fine. The White Sox are like a top 10, but not top 5 stack for me. I just wish the lineup were a little bit different, and like Alonso were hitting 4th and McCann 6th or something like that.
Yeah, I even considered looking at Anibal Sanchez, but I don't really see him being priced well enough. Like if he were priced down there with the Gossmans and the Wakas, I'd probably have quite a bit of interest in him. Just not thinking he's any riskier than those guys, but at this price point, he is. Alex, what do you make of Sanchez and Despaigne?
Despaigne, is he actually on any of the sites?
No, but I just mean in terms of value and hitting against them.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, this game, I think Sanchez is getting some ownership, which is surprising given that Chicago has that 5-team total, but I guess they do strike out a decent amount. Washington is really jumping off the charts in value on FanDuel, so I think there's going to be a huge ownership there. And for that reason, they might not be my preferred player compared to Colorado and Cubs. It's a classic pay up to be contrarian spot, in my opinion. But I think that that 6.2 team total is really appealing. One guy who's underpriced on every site is Adam Eaton, and he's batting second. So that's someone I would definitely be looking towards. And the bottom of the lineup for Chicago is super cheap on DraftKings. Very good values. So if you need, actually, I think that may be the combination people make with Sale and Morton is just stacking up White Sox, and the ownership looks like it's going to be there too.
Interesting. All right, let me go back to you here for a minute, Adam. The Washington Nationals in a spot like this would be popular in terms of everyone expects them to put up runs. Even your 7-hole hitter and Brian Dozier has finally come out of hibernation. He's looked really solid lately. I don't think it's sustainable, but he's a lot better than he was earlier in the season, and is beginning to look like the slightly above average baseball player that he has always been. Howie Kendrick's been crushing, but he's very expensive. Of course, Anthony Rendon is priced like he's at Coors facing Jeff Hoffman. What do you make of these Nats bats? Because I personally think they're in a great exploitable spot, but they're also, it's going to take a lot to get to them. I guess once again we're going down to the Musgroves.
Yeah, they in my initial crunch were the highest owned stack that I got. But one reason for that is that Yan Gomes was in the projected lineup at 3K on DraftKings. Kurt Suzuki's in the actual lineup at 4,100. So that takes away one cheap guy that you could have gone to, and it makes it harder to stack them. I think the price tag on Matt Adams is really appealing, but it just makes them really tough to stack. And I don't know that I do think it's a good spot. I don't know that I want to be paying similar prices for Washington as for Colorado, especially because while Despaigne is not a great pitcher,
no home runs.
Yeah, he doesn't give up a ton of power.
No home runs. It's crazy. I know, and it's been that way for his whole career.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not that Washington can't get to him. It's just that you're paying, like you said, you're paying premium prices on a slate where there are a ton of spots that are underpriced. So you really, really need a lot to go right, because to get the Nats in your lineup, you actually have to sacrifice some things.
Yeah, it's really remarkable actually, because this Despaigne character who spent some years in San Diego, I think he was at the Reds too, I don't remember, had a 12% K rate for his career against lefties, 16% against righties, and he's allowing 0.75 home runs per 9 to lefties, 0.94 to righties for his career. Those are very low marks for a guy that has produced suboptimal totals and has a 5x FIP. So it's kind of weird. I don't know what to say about that, but we do have 2 more games to get to, and I want to do that. Alex, Chicago and Colorado, Herman Marquez and Yu Darvish. Darvish, very cheap, 5th highest K rate on this slate. has very good strikeout stuff, also walks a lot of hitters, but he is good. Or how about this? He's better than 6,200. And then Herman Marquez, I believe that we're going to see positive regression and the strikeouts continue to climb and get higher than they are this season. But he's also at Coors Field, and it's a very tough place to pitch. So what are you thinking here between this matchup between Marquez and Darvish at the most hitter-friendly venue in baseball?
Usually, you wouldn't consider pitchers in Coors, but these guys are quite above average talent, especially Marquez. The matchups aren't that great, especially the Cubs are above average lineup, and the price tag on Marquez, I think I might get there on FanDuel where he's 7,500, but on Yahoo and DraftKings he's not an amazing value. And Darvish, as you mentioned, the Coors Field is really built into his price tag on DraftKings. I think he's playable there. But these guys are probably going to be just contrarian plays and not core plays for me.
Adam?
I don't think I'll get to a whole lot of Marquez just because while he is a little bit cheaper than his talent level, I don't think that I'll have a whole lot of like Chris Sale plus another expensive pitcher lineups. And outside of maybe where I'm stacking the Rockies, I just want Sale like everywhere. So I think that'll keep me off him. I agree he's probably a better play on FanDuel where he's cheaper. Darvish, though, I think I will have a lot of. Like I expect to have a lot of Rockies bats, but in my other lineups, I expect to have a lot of Darvish because he's in that same price range with Waka and Gossman and Musgrove. Right now, we have him projected for lower ownership than all three. Darvish has the fourth highest strikeout percentage on the slate. And when you get a pitcher this cheap with that kind of strikeout upside, yes, he has his flaws. He walks too many guys. He gives up home runs. But strikeouts just erase so many mistakes. And he's so cheap that, you don't need a great game from him for it to be serviceable. And he does give you the upside for a great game because he strikes out 26.5% of batters that he faces. So I'll take the strikeout upside from him over, anyone else in that price range.
So would I. And if there's a guy, even at Coors, that would not be surprised to see him give you like 9 strikeouts, Darvish can certainly do it. It's a big risk, though, Adam, and that's why Colorado bats are equally enticing against somebody in Darvish who hasn't exactly quelled power of his opposing hitters this year either.
Or in previous years before his injury. He was having issues then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a spot where Darvish is cheap, which I think is everywhere. I'm just perfectly fine having a lot of my lineups have Rockies and a lot of my lineups have Darvish.
All right. What about you, Alex, for both bats on this side before we get to our last game? Don't imagine we're going to have a whole lot from the Dodger-Angels game.
I think that the Colorado Rockies in particular are a nice pay up to be contrarian spot. Facing a good pitcher, their price tags are still pretty high. And I think that's going to draw people, especially to the Nationals, but also to the Cubs. So I like the ownership there. The Cubs, I like the fact they're on the road. They got some really good values with Schwarber and Gonzalez, Cargo. Price way low on all three sites. So I think that you get some nice value from that staff. But I expect them to be a little bit higher owned.
Pay up to be contrarian sounds so odd when you're talking about Coors Field, but you're not wrong though. Like 5.9% projected ownership and 9.3 top stack probability. We'll take that. Obviously the value isn't very high, but it doesn't really matter when you've got guys with so much power in their bats. Really, really interesting here, seeing how Colorado high price points will depress that ownership. Do you guys, let me ask you this. Do you have any for the Angels and Dodgers game? I already told you why I can't go to Ryu. I don't think it's worth it. And while I think Griffin Canning's really good and we'll probably play him a lot this year, it's not going to be tonight. Do you guys have arguments there? If so, I'd love to hear them in the last minute we have.
Nope, I agree.
Yeah. I'm pitching in this game.
Any hitting?
I like the Dodgers price.
The Dodgers are pretty cheap.
Yeah, I like the Dodgers pricing. I have a lot of respect for Canning, but I also have a ton of respect for the Dodgers offense. You have, Jock Peterson really cheap. The entire lineup outside of Cody Bellinger is really cheap. And even Bellinger's price tag has come down from being near 6K. So I just think that it's a spot where it's not a perfect matchup, but it is a park that is more beneficial for power now. And they are really, really good hitters at favorable price tags.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm expecting Dodgers to be one of the most popular stocks in the night, which makes me a little less interested, but the value's there, especially on DraftKings. Max Muncy is underpriced. The lineup just came out. He's batting second, so that's pretty appealing for 4,100. And on FanDuel, the top 3 hitters, Peterson, Muncy, Turner, all really good values. So I think they make a lot of sense if you are going contrarian with the rest of your lineup.
All right, we'll get our top stacks here, but before we head out, if you do enjoy the show and you want to see more and you want to help support us, you don't necessarily have to buy a subscription. If you wanted to, though, you could use the promo code Deeper Dive and get half off, 50% off your first month to get everything that we reference throughout the show and a whole lot more behind the paywall. Check it out on awesemo.com and use the promo code Deeper Dive upon checkout. But you could also just leave us a thumbs up, like the video. It helps us out greatly and really helps support this channel, so we appreciate it. And subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you always know when we're dropping new content. I think that'll do it for us, boys. Top stacks, Adam.
Colorado Coors Nats.
Colorado Coors, not Colorado.
Sorry, Colorado Cubs Nats.
Okay, I figured that's what you meant. Alex.
Like Colorado as a pay up to be contrarian, and Atlanta as kind of a sneaky spot that's good value.
All right, I will throw Philly in here against Taylor Clark. I don't think he's good, so I'll hope Philly can be good for a change. That'll do it for us. Live Before Lock is coming up next, taking you till 7:05 Eastern Time. Stick around on the channel for that. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Good luck tonight.